Hello, everyone. Mike Arnold here, co-founder of Path Trading Partners, along with Bob Iacchino. Happy Memorial Day, everyone. Recording this after the equity futures closed on Monday, Memorial Day, for the weekly sector overview. So we got that rally we were watching for still continuing. If you can't tune into the live stream, here's what I'm watching for the beginning of this week. A slight pullback Tuesday, Wednesday would be preferable in terms of the stats. And then another push higher. So keep that in mind with how you're playing the different stocks in the sectors. And by the way, if you are new here, please do consider subscribing, ringing that bell, and hitting the like button. Longer term subscribers, please leave your comments to help us get wider distribution and like the videos. All right. So again, lots of things rallying. We had a lot of those doubles that got triggered last week. We'll take a look. But right here, energy. There's what just happened here. XLE. How did that happen? There we go. Sorry about that. So still in strong bull mode, running up. Not quite next to our 89.37 harmonic target. What I'm going to do now is up these other ones. So if we go through that 89.37, it's roughly 89. You see it just hit this other harmonic. I just updated it. This is roughly, oh, sorry, I didn't put it to the right area. There we go. Now 89.37 to 90.75. So those are the next two higher targets on the daily, breaking out from this channel. And we are expecting it to continually push up, getting a little oversold and cycles getting a little toppy on the daily. So we might get another little push before a pullback. And now the key support would be back at about 84.20 to about 84.50. If you want to watch something a little closer, you can pay attention to the 4-hour rotation zone. The first little support there is about 86.50, but really my major support area on a pullback would be back down to this 84 area I just talked about. Here's what I'm talking about. RSI now overbought, and the cycles at the top, not yet rolling over, but we're getting very close to possibly a short-term daily topping pattern. And on the weekly, we have cycles. There's still a little more area to run higher, so you could get a couple day pullback and then one more push higher on the weekly before putting in a more substantial topping pattern. Just keep that in mind. Real estate, XLRE still in long-term sell mode, but remember we have that double pattern trigger, and first and second targets are hit. So we do have some more upside. So this could be another little play still if you find stocks in this sector for a continued push higher. Again, if we get that little pullback, I'd be watching your shorter term rotation zones like the 4-hour for the pullback into support, and then the rotation back up to reestablish some plays. Next area, 45.22, and then I'm really focused on about this 45.50 area, 45.40, 45.50, with the declining 50 period exponential and the this prior harmonic area. So that's where it's key for me to watch for, but still not close to a long-term buy pattern just yet. XLF, the financial, another substantial rally. We had those doubles triggered. This one hit the first and second targets also with that 50. If it does continue higher, 36.06 is pretty significant. Why is that significant? Because you have this prior resistance pivot area here, the final target on the double. On any pullback now, I'd be watching for about 34.60 to hold, but there is a little more upside potential. Cycles getting very toppy, though, and getting overbought. So just keep that in mind. I would not chase things higher at this level. Where do we sit with the weeklies? Weeklies cycles are turning up, so you might get a nice little daily pullback, then one more weekly push higher, and you see we're just entering into the weekly rotation zone. So if it did get through this next 36 area, my full target on one more push higher would be about 36.70 area. XLK, technology. still a long way off from a buy pattern. For a long-term buy pattern, we had the short-term pattern which triggered and has not yet gotten to the first target. So on a continued push in technology, which is one of the weaker ones, we're still watching about 130. I'm watching this 143.30 to about 144 area for the target. And then above there, if it did continue, 146.50. So those are the areas. Dailies cycles are getting to the top, getting to overbought. They aren't turning over yet, so we might still have a little upside run in there. And you see reconnected with the weekly rotation zone. Now, if it does get, I'm really focused on this first and second target on this because of the weekly rotation zone just in front of the final target. Weekly sector's still turning up, so we might get, again, a lot of these things. Short-term little daily pullback in the next couple days, and then one more substantial push higher. All right, XLI. Again, so many things are trading in complete lockstep. This one still a long way off from a buy pattern. This one did not have a double. So it was the end of this advanced clear path move and the 37.5 harmonic. If a pullback, my key support now is about 93.55, and another push higher, my next target is about 96.32 for XLI, but then I'll start watching for a more substantial rollover. Cycles at the top of this one, overbought condition on the daily. Weekly still turning up and just hitting this weekly rotation zone. So the next really full target, if we make that one more substantial push higher, would be about 98. Near the top of the weekly rotation zone, this prior support area becoming resistance, and the 50% harmonic area from this down move. So please do keep that in mind on the next move higher for any industrial stocks. XLY, consumer discretionary, still a long way off from a long-term buy pattern, but short-term going through this little mini double targets and through the daily rotation zone. So if this continues higher, my next target is about 157.25, and then major area for me on a continued rally would be about 160.175 for a full target, and that would take us, well, I'm going to hedge that down a bit, 160 to about 161.75. That's this prior support becoming resistance and the weekly rotation zone. And you could get up just a little higher to the 50% level, 164.23. But anything in this area, I'll watch for another substantial rollover play in consumer discretionary. That's going to be an area that I love to look for short plays in. XLP, you have consumer staples. A little whipsaw move here on the triggers. This a sell and then back to a buy, a very rare whipsaw. If you want conservative on this, this would be the aggressive buy. The conservative buy, it would need to be closed back above 76.92 area, 76.93. So if you don't want to get whipsawed and you think this could roll over again in consumer staples, because consumer staples, if the market sells off, it generally gets some rotation back into, but there's a lot of PEs that are really high still in these. So if you want the conservative buy, which is what we're looking at, it would have to get the close back above about the 76.92 area. On the daily, you can see here, here's the daily, back through the rotation zone, strong little run up, but I'm watching for any topping pattern between 75.48 and 76.91. On your weekly with your cycles, the cycles are trying to turn up, but this is so far a weak move, and there's plenty of overhead resistance right in this area. So I'm being very cautious with that still. XLV Healthcare, never triggered a long-term sell yet, and a short-term. Short-term, we had the double pot pattern, which has already hit the first targets. The next two targets I'm watching for over the next week or so, even if we get the pullback move, I'm at 135.09 to 136.32 area. And at this point, I am reversing these harmonics because we already came down to statistically test in this other harmonic area. And you see here the 50% level overhead. And even if it rallies up here, it does not get the close above the 62.5 yet. So there is some plays still in healthcare. And you see the weekly is just in consolidation mode, but the daily watching, we could get a little pause with the cycles trying to turn over and overbought condition. I'd be watching this 4-hour area pull back to about 132.11 to back to about 131 for any pullback support. XLB material select spider again, horribly sloppy double pattern that's gone through all the targets. Let's take a look where that sits on the long-term basis. It's still in long-term buy mode, never triggered a sell mode, and now we have to flip these harmonics. Closing above the 62.5, so this I'm looking for still continuation. Even with pullback plays, I'm looking for continuation move higher because statistically this should favor a return to the 90 area. Pullback, my first support area is about 85.50. And then my major support, 84.35. So I'm still interested even if we do get the pullbacks on the material selects. XLC Communications, again, no long-term anywhere buy pattern. Short-term just triggering this double. Has some room to run, 61.59. And then my major target would be 62.43. Why is that the major target? Because it's against the 50. Cycles are still trying to get up there on the daily, so not rolling over yet and not in overbought condition. And on the weekly, coming up right now to run just below the 50. Just below the 50, so keep that in mind. Now, there is some pretty substantial resistance right at this first target, so that's definitely an area to aggressively move up stops. XLU still utilities. We had that pullback, and then the reversal still in long-term buy mode. Short-term triggering the double, which this was one side of. This was not a triple pattern. It was an iffy one, but with this strong moves up, still could use the targets. 74.21, where you see that pause there, now going through the next target, and I'm expecting us to hit the 75.60 area. So short-term and long-term buy on any pullbacks. The 74 area is the first level support. Then my major support is back down towards about 73. But definitely looking for plays. Utility sector, even if we get that daily pullback, weekly is just starting to turn up. And you see that multi-week pullback, pausing at the bottom of the weekly rotation zone, and now getting that strong rotation back up. So there's plenty of potential good plays still in utilities. XRT, retail ETF, nowhere near a long-term buy signal. Short-term on that daily did not have a double pattern. So it was just targeting the harmonics, brief pause at 37.5 on a continued play higher. I'd really be watching the 50 harmonic about 69.90. Cycles getting towards toppy on the daily, but not rolling over yet. And on the weekly, still turning up. So we could get another push higher, especially if it gets above that 50. Watch for a rollover play in front of 73 because that would be in the weekly rotation zone, with a potential rollover play between the 50 and the 62% harmonic. So that is a key area for watching for new short plays for me, at least. IYT Transportation ETF, long-term sell still in place. Nice little bounce. This was a little double pattern. It was not in place by last week, but it did come in place over the last few days, triggering, hitting the first target and the second target. So that is done on a continued push higher. My next target is right at the end of this little swing high with the 37% harmonic, 238.85, and then 241.39. See here on the weekly, that first target is right to the weekly rotation zone, and anywhere in here is key resistance now. So this would be aggressively move up stops. I'm watching for another longer term rollover play in transportation. So looking after we get this one more push higher and cycles start rolling over, we'll start watching for shorting opportunities in transportation. Commodities still moving on up, nowhere near a sell signal, breaking out of this resistance. So pullback area now for commodities is about 28.40. The next major area I'm watching is 29.94. If we did get that bigger pullback, again, about 27.76 and then 26.57 are the key areas. We have agriculture. Agriculture starting to still be a little toppy, but nowhere near a long-term sell signal. Excuse me. Still have this double in play for the weekly, but not close to triggering it yet. So let's just take a look at that daily with this pause. Right here, we have, see, coming right down to the 62.5% harmonic. So that's key. If we get the close below about 21.92, then I'll start targeting a bigger pullback back to potentially about 21.50. Until that happens, got to stick with the bullish plays in agriculture. SMH semiconductor, nice little rally here. Remember, we're in a long-term sell signal, long-term head and shoulders pattern. We broke down, just missing the first target and rallying up into the weekly rotation zone, and we have this little short-term double. So I'm still watching for potential. The key area for me is about 248 to about 250. I'm really actually 249 to 250. Key supports coming in for me about 236 right now. So there might be still some more potential upside before we get the rollover. Daily is still moving up but not rolling over with the cycles, and weekly is getting closer to a top but not yet, so we can still have some potential more upside. VTV getting this little potential whipsaw buy sell pattern, but we did not get the close above 62.50, so I am being a little cautious still with the Vanguard Value ETF. I need a close above 145.35 on a longer term basis to really put me back in the bullish mode on there. Sorry, I'm having some allergy issues. These cycles are at the top and starting to roll over. That's why I'm not being aggressive here yet with anything to the long side. Now there might be a little pullback play on the daily, and then weekly play could get that next push higher. So I am keeping a close eye on that, but not being aggressive yet. Growth, the Vanguard Growth Funds, we triggered this little double. This almost turned into a triple, but this was still the same side. I'm watching for a continued little push, 248.80, then 252.90 to about 254.38 are my next targets higher. Don't want to see it really get a close back below 235 on a short-term basis, even if we have that pullback. Don't want a major pullback. Watch that 4-hour rotation zone. But again, growth is just a short-term play, the upside, and then another major rollover play for growth stocks. I am being careful until we're getting daily cycles to the top, but not yet rolling over, and weekly are still turning up, so we might get that pause, pullback, and then one more substantial push higher, and then the real big rollover play back in growth. That is everything I am watching for this week. Again, please tune into the live streams because you can always ask for updates with any of these sectors on the live streams should you be wondering what our unfolding stance is during the week. Until then, I'll talk to everybody on the next live stream, and everybody who tunes in for the weekly sector overview, I'll see you next weekend. Have a great week, and bye for now.